Starting,
Hi there.
starting.
It's done.
There's your ding. There's Eugene's ding. So as usual, I'd like to start off by saying hi. It's DallasWinstonBloodyElbow.com. I'm joined by the legendary Eugene S. What does the S stand for today, my man?
The S stands for Student of the School of Hard Knocks.
As always.
Kind
All
of
right,
prolix.
so
Kind of prolix, but whatever.
Kid Nate is gallivanting off in some nether regions of the world that are surely more
That means
favorable than.
that means he's hanging around our testicles.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, there ain't no
Hey,
room to hide.
you're the one who said nether regions, man. What are you thinking? Unless he's in
Yeah, that's
Holland.
all right.
Unless
So
he's in
that's
Holland,
probably
that makes no
he,
sense.
he could be in Holland. Is it wrong?
I don't know. No, Holland's all right if you like tulips.
So as you can tell, the utmost professionalism and seriousness only on this show. We're doing the Care Don't Care, and Kid Nate is off this week, so I'm playing Kid Nate by proxy. He has kind of passed down some of his Sith powers because I had to. My old laptop was a piece of shit, and I was struggling with it
Shite.
forever. So I bought a new one. I've been kind of flying around chaotic and out for the last couple days, so I honestly know very little about these cards, except I guess I haven't done any research. So this will kind of be a genuine Care Don't Care, except I have more hair. That did rhyme. I do that all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
So
You gotta get. Yeah, it's a hippie thing. I keep looking half the time at the Wookiee, thinking that he's the one talking, but
most
there.
people, I think, I've actually had requests like, "Can you be quiet more, and can we get a little more info from Chewie?" So he's kind of got the gangster lean going a little bit today. And I'm using
Yeah,
my my webcam on my new computer, so I'm kind of like contrasty, dark and brooding. All right,
yeah.
so let's start off with Ultimate Fight Night 43. First of all, let's just go way big picture. What are your thoughts? There's two UFCs on the same damn day. This did not go over well last time it happened. Initial overall thoughts.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, one is at I think 2:30 in the morning.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, damn, son. Yeah, your time because it's all right, so I did not even know that. The main card for the two cards we're going to talk about are Fight Night 43. Of course, with the UFC, they make it so simple. There's like three different names for each one. I'll list all three. Ultimate Fight Night 43 slash the same Tahuna versus Markhart slash UFN 43 New Zealand.
Right.
Pick any one of those three. And that's
Well,
one card. Go ahead.
yeah. There's some madness to the method. I remember Andy Grove, who used to be the CEO of Intel, said that you want to fill all of the competitive spaces between your competitive spaces with your own business. So you can't leave a competitor to do a foothold. I mean, I think if you could have 24-hour MMA with 24-hour MMA with pay-per-view, that they would do that to not let anybody else get a handhold. But I'm not getting up at 2:30 in the morning. Sorry, I'm not doing it. I love MMA, but not that much.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that. So the main card, no, it's earlier than 2:30 a.m. for the prelims. So right now it's 11:30 a.m. You're 3 hours behind me, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so the preliminary card for UFN 43, which is the Tahuna versus Marquardt card, the prelims start at 2:30 a.m. Eastern.
Okay,
Hmm.
yeah, all right. So that's a doable time for me. I could
Just
at 11:30. I'm probably awake. But I want to know, can I expense the crystal meth that I'll have to take to ride me into those early morning hours?
who are you going
I'll
to
take that
send?
as a yes.
Because Kid Nate denied me, despite repetitive claims
Really?
on that same. Yeah, you wouldn't think.
Man, that guy, that's tight. I can't believe we got to unionize.
I mean, if there's ever a reason to. But the only time I can remember, like, setting my alarm and
Yeah.
waking myself up out of even the slightest slumber was in the old Pride days, and even a little while ago when they were still doing the what was it? It might have been Dream and Dynamite, the co-promoted New Year's Eve shows. I mean, I have no problem. I enjoy staying up for that. I don't actually ever remember doing it for UFC. It's
Right.
kind of weird.
Well, I guess it's like Christmas. It's like Christmas, right? You
Well,
think
anyways, going back to what
fat,
you were
fat,
saying
fat,
originally,
fat Dana?
I'm
No,
sorry.
I was just saying, the fat Dana's gonna come down your chimney with the new UFC. You put cookies out,
We could
cookies
use
and
some
steroids.
cookies. We could,
You put them
yeah,
out by the stool. Huh?
some anabolic sprinkled cookies. Every child food.
All right.
So I kind of want. I'm glad you opened up like that with what you were initially talking about because this is just my perception. In a quick review, I've always been like kind of the anti-care, don't care because I used to do dissections. My whole role in the MMA world was intimately researching details on all the fighters. So for anyone who's followed me or the show recently, I've been getting a little more burned out and kind of getting more towards the same page as you guys. And to me, the landmark
I
event.
thought that was alcoholism.
Well, I mean, there's many different ways you can paint it, and we're going to
Yeah.
go with my description for the purpose of this show. Actually, out of all things, I don't even drink anymore. I've had like a 12 pack in my fridge for I
Oh
think a
man,
full summer.
what's the
I'm not
matter with
going
you?
I'm not going so far as to say I'm sober all the time. I mean, let's not get carried away.
That would be crazy. Uh,
So to me, a landmark event was the last UFC doubleheader, probably for a couple reasons. First, I had to cover each one from head to toe, and both cards turned out to be pretty piss poor. And that also seemed to trigger a big reaction of kind of what I fell into was finally, okay, this was actually kind of not fun. It was disappointing. I'm exhausted. I'm a
yeah.
little burnt out on the UFC. And that was on a lot of different places from a lot of different sources, journalists, all that kind of thing. But I saw someone paint the picture that you kind of just did. That was the reason they're oversaturating that much is to leave not even the slightest bit of breathing room for the competition, which is almost like the other end of the spectrum. My initial version, I thought it might have opened the door for an alternative. People might get burned out on the UFC and now Bellator, Coker. That might appeal more than it did before. But kind of
Mm.
your take on that is that the opposite. I mean, MMA in any way, shape, or form, they can get it from the UFC and get bombarded by it. So why look at an alternative?
Also, you realize that it's like the Danzig line: at war with the planets, at war with mankind. I mean that I don't think Dana White goes to bed thinking at all about Bellator, but I think we are his competitive base. And I'm not talking about members of the Fourth Estate. I'm a journalist. I'm talking about uh, the viewing audience. you know, I mean, so if you're like, okay, man, I bought a car, every 5 years I buy a car. Car companies don't want you to buy a car every 5 years. They want you to buy a car every 5 minutes if they can get you to do that. Every 5 minutes, you go buy yourself a fucking car because that's what's good for America. It's like Milo Minderbender from Catch 22. So what's good for Milo is good for America. I think you know the competitive spaces that he's trying to fill have very much to do with how much could the audience take. Would
Isn't
they?
that really the quality versus quantity argument, what you're talking about right there?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, they've got how many fighters are on the payroll with 375? They've got lots of guys sitting around, man, getting checks for. Somebody should do some sort of research to find out who is the most underused MMA fighter who still draws a paycheck. Because this guy is a master at his game. Because he manages to be in there, not get fired. Nobody remembers. It's like Bartleby the Scrivener. He probably doesn't even train anymore. He's just at home, and then the check shows up. He's like, shh. They
And
pay
I'm
me,
trying
and
to
I
think
don't
of a
fight.
couple. There's got to be
Yeah,
a couple. I'm really just thinking of popular, semi-popular, noteworthy fighters that have been out of action for a while. But I
correct.
get what you're saying. And to me, that was kind of a quality versus quantity thing. When in my other job, when I first started, the company I was with did a lot with the automotive industry, or used to,
Right.
and that was the whole new trend. Reliability was not even in the picture anymore because how are we gonna get more business if we sell a car that fucking lasts forever? So it became a very
Yeah.
short-sighted mission statement, and really the end of it was why spend all this time on quality for shit that's gonna last? Let's make more. Let's make it faster and cheaper, and then we'll be seeing our customers
Well,
over and over again.
or there's a Silicon Valley way of product cycle. I mean, you get yourself a nice fancy smartphone. You think the innovations that go into the next iteration of that smartphone, they just some guy sitting at a bench with crazy hair says, "Eureka!" and he comes up with the a new camera. That shit's planned well in advance, man. I mean, the stuff that's going into the iPhone 8 is already being worked on. It's not, or it could possibly already be in existence, but we can't give it to you now. We got to stagger it. It's like this is the brand new, improved, in quote marks, new and improved. you know,
And I
what are
assume
the
the
quote
risk
marks
with what
for? Don't ask.
I assume the risk with what you're saying is if they have a new widget, a new whatever, new renovation, revision that's going to be bigger and better, and they sit on it, the risk is that the competition will either come out with the same or something else better in the interim.
Well, we can go down a little side road here, but let's look at the iWatch, which everybody's been talking about for a long time. And Samsung, in this pitched battle with Apple right now, is rushed out some versions of iWatches already exist, but they don't exist in a framework of a universe of products that work in a certain way that have dazzled people. I mean, people think that Apple invited the MP3 player. It didn't invent the MP3 player. If you're old enough to remember back, there were MP3 players before the iPod. Apple just kind of waited, and waited, and waited, and they struck when the time was right with iTunes, and they came up with a kind of a chemical mix that was pretty perfect. And I think the same thing will happen again this October when they come up with the iWatch. But Samsung laid down that marker so they won't get sued. Like they're getting sued right now for the stuff they ripped off of the iPhone, which they did rip off. But with the iWatch, you're saying, okay, we had an iWatch first, so all that shit is, yeah, okay. It's how it fits in the universe. It beats, it'll tie into beats, I'm sure, I mean, so the UFC, trying to figure out the formula, and keep in mind, it's still, UFC is a growth sport. If I was a baseball fan, I could tell you exactly how many baseball games they're going to play next year. I would know that. I would know that. I could look and could tell. And I'm assuming that's not accidental. I'm assuming somebody has sat down, a Billy Bean type character has sat down and figured out, this is the maximum dollar we could squeeze from this baseball. That's it. If we have one game more, people are going to flip out, or we'll start losing money. So I think the UFC, specifically the UFC, not MMA, but the UFC, is involved in that kind of how like that band SSD used to sing. How much art can they take? you know.
Oh yeah, by the way, what I didn't catch your Danzig quote earlier. What disc or song is that from?
At war with the planets, at war with mankind. It's Sam Hain, I believe.
Old school.
Yeah, 1,000 angers have kept me alive.
So semi-related, it was more related before you brought our technology discussion back to the UFC. But have you experienced Windows 8 at all? Have you heard
No,
anything?
I used to be platform agnostic. Haven't worked at Intel, but then haven't had friends who worked at Apple. But then when I worked at Apple, I actually went and I never looked back. And I've been so singularly disappointed with structural issues with Microsoft that I haven't really paid attention. I mean, and I'm talking about structural. I guess I mean personality issues. The whole Steve Ballmer thing. it's like somebody once said about Whoopi Goldberg. So what? All of America is afraid to tell her she's not funny. Well, all of America is afraid to tell Steve Ballmer that he sucks. But I mean, I'm sort of happy that he bought the Clippers. That makes me happy.
I don't know if I would call Whoopi unfunny, but I think she wasn't hilarious, but I think her charisma made her watchable or likable. Like to me, I always think of the movie Burglar. I thought she was good in that flick. Is that just
Well,
me?
I think the two funniest women that I've seen. I mean, Ellen stand-up used to really kill, but in terms of sketch type folks, which maybe her Whoopi stand-up was always kind of sort of sketch based. Andrea Martin and Catherine O'Hara from SCTV. and I still think they're both really hilarious women, and probably the funniest women in the world, actually, very specifically. I used to like Ellen Cleghorn too, but she wasn't as funny as Martin and O'Hara. So, but Whoopi's an act. I see an actress I see what she started out as, a performance artist. So, but
All
that
right.
doesn't change that doesn't change the fact that I think Steve Ballmer essentially drove that company into the ground. Yeah, no, and nobody wanted to hurt his feelings by telling him, "Hey, man, you suck." No.
So I
I
don't know
mean,
if it's just me, but your audio is pretty choppy right now. I would say your video is too, but it always looks like you're on a cruise ship rollicking back and forth betwixt waves at
yeah.
sea. That doesn't bother
Here,
me,
let's
but just so you know, your audio was a little bit crackly.
okay. Better?
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
you always move your shit around. I don't mind that. I kind of like it. It's part of the Eugene experience.
all right.
But your audio was cracky. It could have been me. All right, so do you want to buzz through each matchup on this card? So over my first overall question, do you know of any matchups, or is there anything you're aware of that before I go through the tangible list here that you're looking forward to, interested in seeing?
Yeah, the headliners are both I'm interested in seeing, and there were odd fights in the card that I was interested in. But you realize, of course, that that we didn't have our plan for today established until about 27 minutes ago.
That's
So
tip,
I mean,
that's
it seems like
typical.
it seems like it would make sense that we would do a care don't care for two entire fight cards in the 33 minutes we have left. But
Yeah, 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 yeah. We can do that. I mean, well,
we
and it
could have
worked
just
out
ended
like
up
us.
talking about. We could have talked about French cinema. You never know.
No, that's not a strong suit of
Say it again.
mine. That's not a strong suit of mine. French cinema, that'd be a one-sided conversation.
Oh, okay.
You know, totally tangent because I don't think either of us give a shit. Someone on Twitter didn't really complain, but was saying, asking why we didn't give any love to Jackie Brown in our Tarantino discussion,
Oh,
and that was one of my least favorite Tarantino movies. Is that just me?
I'm interested. First of all, I'm interested in why it was your least favorite.
You know, maybe I don't know. There was nothing like to me every Tarantino movie there was something that really resonated with you. The entire Reservoir Dogs, that was my first experience. But you know, Pulp Fiction, there were just certain scenes that will be burned into my memory forever. And I can say the same, even though he didn't technically do True Romance. I believe he just did the screenplay there. But there were elements of his style and his personality that just I didn't even
Well,
have to. You know, they just were stuck with me. And that I don't know what it was in that one.
I know what it was. Uh,
What?
yeah. Do you know? I mean, you do know he didn't write Pulp Fiction alone, right? Yeah, I'm gonna pull a name out of the hat. You'll go, oh yeah, Roger Avery was the guy who wrote Pulp Fiction with him, and there were a lot of people who said that Roger Avery was the real power behind the throne, which people largely believed. And Jackie Brown, they had a fractious parting. Jackie Brown was the first solo Tarantino outing that didn't include Roger Avery. I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe that was the case. But Roger Avery, then he could have coasted on that and come out with something great. But I think he turned around and did Killing Zoe. Was his, and so at that point, people go, Killing Zoe sucks so much, anal sex scenes aside, that maybe Tarantino was the genius behind it all. Tarantino realized his former friend, now competitor, had made a fatal misstep, and what was Tarantino's first post Jackie Brown flick?
I don't even remember breakfast this morning, so
Okay, I would want to say it was Kill
Kill Bill.
Bill.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Kill Bill.
and he killed with Kill Bill, but it was much more stylized than the other stuff. And I think he just said, "I'm gonna go fucking big." And people are still trying to figure out: is it Tarantino? Is it Avery? Is it Avery? Is it Tarantino? I'm not talking about the audience. I'm talking about people who cut checks in Hollywood. But after killing Zoe, it's like, I got it. You want to make a French film for an American audience, man, but you know, like Barbara Streisand said, even with her gay audience, she just said she's been having a big, I think, putting together some movie with the cat, not Angels in America cat, and he said I want to make it a real movie about gay life, and that includes gay sex. And Barbara Streisand said, "Look, I don't find gay sex appealing, you know," and and the guy got, "Oh, Barbara Streisand's a homophobe, a homophobe." I don't think. I think Barbara Streisand wouldn't want to see any cinematic depictions of sex. In this instance, he said gay sex. She responded with gay sex. But I think that's probably was a major failure of killing Zoe, because
Yeah,
I don't remember much about the movie outside of the main character getting raped in the ass.
I
So
remember it vaguely. I could because I've always kind of liked Eric Stoltz. I mean, he fell off pretty
yeah,
hardcore, but I want to say the beginning of that movie was fairly absorbing as the premise was set, and I think he met up with all the criminals and got really buzzed up on something, and I was kind of into it, but it really just lost me a little bit
yep,
after that.
yeah, probably right around the time of the anal rape.
Well, at least that would
I
have
mean,
been memorable. I don't
yeah.
recall that actually.
Well, I mean, anal rape worked well for Deliverance, but it's just because you didn't see it coming. And then there was that whole ritual, the whole ritual humiliation. I guess nobody sees it coming, but
Not in
yeah,
Deliverance though. That was the
yeah,
key surprise.
but there was also the ritual humiliation. It just wasn't anal rape. It was, you could see the guys ramping up to it. And it's like, no, they're not. No, they're not. No, oh, they did.
It was the vibe, there
Yeah,
was that
yeah, yeah.
creepy vibe, that
Right.
smile was just a little too,
Yeah, yeah.
there was an appetite behind that smile. So, anyways, folks, this is the kind of classy discourse you should expect from such a show. I personally, I had to cut myself off because I could talk about movies in Tarantino and probably would prefer to, and that's not anything against MMA, but um, so I'm really digging the headliners, and to me on the second card, Swanson versus Stevens.
Yep.
I'm a huge Cub Swanson fan. I
As
mentioned
am
this,
I.
yeah, and what I love about him is his technique is vast and not like, hey, he's well rounded in all areas. I mean, Homeboy has really worked on his boxing. He's always been a good kickboxer. He's quick. He's really worked on his angles. He'll throw capoeira kicks from distance. He can wrestle. He's got Thai in the clinch. He's got some really nice judo throws, and he's always been a black belt. But all that being said, the dude goes in and throws, like it's a street fight in the vein of like BJ Penn and the Diaz
Yep.
brothers. So I'm
Yep.
down with a Cub Swanson fight anytime. And the Stevens fight should be a good one. What are your thoughts on? Do you got any matchup thoughts on that? Because I actually think Stevens is going to present a more basic, and that's not offensive at all, based on what I said about Cub. But even though he's not nearly as dynamic, I think he's going to be a really really tough test for him.
Yeah, I think they're in different places. First of all, go back to Kid Nate's bugaboo. I care about this fight. So I'm guessing we both care about the fight. We're gonna do a modified care don't care, so we're caring. And I think Stevens is in a different place than Cub Swanson. He had a couple of missteps, with the legal kerfuffle, and he looked real strong his last few outings. And I just fundamentally get the sense that Cub is in a different place, both in his head and in his career. I could be wrong about this, but it feels like sort of sunsetty to me in the Cub Swanson camp. I could be wrong, man. Um,
Really,
but
I,
yeah,
based on when you started that, I thought you were going to say maybe Cub wasn't as hungry. He's got a few more years in him, and Stevens knows this is the end. But
that's what
sounds like
that's exactly what I'm saying.
okay, yeah, and
Yeah,
I would kind of agree with that. Not that Cub's not hungry, but Stevens ran the mill at 155, and if you really record, it's really good. He's the kind of dude that has he's competed against a ton of top 10, top 15 guys, losses to the best or better ones, but he's still got a really nice set of wins. I mean, he took, Pettis to
yeah,
the champ to a real close decision, and he's really well suited at featherweight. And I think Jeremy just knows, like, he's been around for so long. It's rare to be in the UFC as long as he has. I don't know how many fights, how many years, but much more than the average. So for him to get a main event, I think maybe it's a maturity thing, or just, man, he knows that what the opportunity he has is precious and rare. And I do think he's probably going to be maybe a little hungrier than Cub. But you can almost always say that because Cub goes out and fights. That's why I love the guy. Like, he was against Ricardo Lamas, he was doing fine, but he just got a little overconfident and kept
Yep.
doing the same when he was trying to pull his hips out and guard. And Lamas capitalized, pounced, and hopped on that side choke. And yeah, that's something. If Cub fought safer, smarter, he might have been able to avoid. But Cub is not a safer.
Yep. Yep.
Sounds kind of. I'm not that he's not a smart fighter, but you know what I'm saying. So I
Yeah.
didn't go fight by fight because I was just looking for overall between the two cards. If there's anything that tickles your fancy, is that
Well,
even a term?
right now, I mean, if people could see the primitive conditions that we have to work under. Right now, I got the computer, the left hand holding the computer up so it doesn't overheat. I got the right hand holding the Logitech camera so it doesn't tilt forward. My foot is stuck on the earphone cable, and my other leg, I don't dare move it in case I lose the audio. Which is to say, I don't have ShareDog open so I can even see the fights because I'm afraid to move lest we lose our link. So how about you go through the card? Yeah, because I don't
Yeah,
remember
I
all
will. I
20
got I got it
fights.
out here,
And
and
then, oh wait, oh, hold
you're handling that very
on.
well
Okay.
too. Is that a "Don't be scared" homie shirt?
It is, man. You know,
Nice.
courtesy of Mr. Diaz. Yeah.
No kidding. Nice, nice. All right, so
Yeah.
let's start at the bottom. And I was going to do that all along. I didn't mean to mislead you. I just didn't know if, without detailing each one, if anything stuck out to you. So I'm going to start off with the preliminary card. This is for all the hardcores who are going to wake up at 2 in the morning to watch this list of one, two, three,
No, no,
six fights.
they will not have gone to sleep.
Say again?
They will not have gone to sleep.
Yeah, well, for me, 2:30, that's borderline. But for you guys that are 3 hours behind, yeah, that's better than
Yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
sleeping. All right,
Yeah.
so first one, Sean O'Connell versus Jean Vellante.
Oh man, I have a connection to Jean Vellante. I think Jean Vellante could have been my very first gift. You know,
I like him. Good
do
dude.
you? You like him to win?
Well, I do like him to win this fight.
Oh, oh,
Actually,
you do?
yes, I
Okay.
do
All
like
right.
him to win this fight here.
All right.
I thought he was going to creep into. I don't ever know how to
All right.
quantify
So, so,
things like
so,
this.
so, so first of all, I guess we're saying we care. We're talking about
Yeah,
it.
because I
Okay.
like Gian Vellante.
All right.
I believe he's still at a Belmore Kickboxing Academy. I wish I could remember the instructor's name, but good dude. Chris, maybe, I don't know. It doesn't matter. But I've always liked him. I've always thought he has good potential. Good wrestler, also a football player, good boxer too. I
Okay.
think it was Fabio Maldonado. I picked him. It wasn't the popular opinion, and he looked phenomenal in the first round, and not so much afterwards. But either way, so I'm fairly interested in this
That sounds like my life.
one. All right,
Man,
let me bounce this.
he came out so strong and deadly.
Fade it out. Let me list this next one
All
to
right.
you. Ian Entwistle, which sounds like a medieval druid,
Man, I loved his stuff with the Who.
versus Daniel Hooker. I'm gonna go with a don't care on this one.
I don't give a shit. Sorry.
I could,
Yeah,
post
yeah.
fight, but
Well,
as of now,
that's right. We have to do the disclaimer where we let people know, specifically the fighters, know that it's got nothing to do with you, your skills, your talent. Has more to do with how you've been marketed up to this point. That you haven't pierced the veil of our fight consciousness. So don't take it personal.
well, yeah, and I'm glad you
Crybabies.
said that. To me, that kind of goes, and that's actually something that's important to me because when I've came out as a journalist, usually if you're going to say something interesting, definitely if you're going to say something funny, almost always considering the standard, it comes at someone else's expense, i.e., ha ha, look at you. And I
You're
never
right.
wanted to do that. So, and that's actually a harder way to go. But yeah, I'm glad you said that. And I want to say when you say it has to do with the way they've been marketed, let's be honest, they have not been marketed whatsoever. If anything, this is why I would kind of keep going back to this UFC deluge of events. I mean, with this many events and now with two in the same day, guys like Ian Entwistle and Daniel Hooker are not going to receive a lot of love
Okay,
pre-event. They still have the
right,
great opportunity to
yes,
blow us away. I'm happy to see guys that I don't know, but at this point, I don't know them.
and that's what they give. That's what they're being given the opportunity to do. That's what's happening. So
And I don't think, and
make the
I
most of it, fellas.
yeah, yeah, and that's the way it kind of should be. You know what I mean? I don't know. I would guess in combat sports, often everyone who's been famous at one point in time, no one's heard of them,
Yeah.
and they had a, they walked their talk, and that's why their performance did the talking for them. So
Yeah,
I guess
I'm still slightly shocked and ashamed of myself from my first viewing of John Jones, and I was like, "Why did they bring out this skinny fucking kid? This kid's gonna get fucking killed. What's he think? What does he think this is like? Street basketball? What the fuck?" And I was so dismissive, and within the first 30 seconds of him throwing Bonner around, I was like, "Oh, maybe I was a little too hasty."
Wait,
You know?
was Bonner the first fight, the first Jonesy fight that you saw?
Yeah, it was.
Damn it, I'm not going to be able to think of his name. I saw him. It was when he started going to town with his spinning elbows, especially when he faked the low single and came up with the spinning elbow. I know I'm not going to be able to remember the cat's name, but
I
yeah,
remember that fight too. I think that was after Bonner, man.
I believe that was I believe that was
Or
before
maybe
Bonner.
that was Bonner. I remember that though. That was phenomenal.
So either way, I mean, to reinforce our point, if we don't know you beforehand, that's the whole idea. You get your big opportunity, and we are completely open on, to be wowed. And please do, by the way. All right, next one, Rodrigo Goyana de Lima versus Neil Magny. Your thoughts, sir?
I care. What the
Because of
fuck?
Magny?
No, because of Lima. He's a friend of Knuckle Up, but in on only the most tangential. Not t- he's been on Knuckle Up, but at the time his English was so terrible. He was just stand there in the background or stand there next to me, and I announced him, and he went off. He has Rodrigo Lima, right?
This is different. Are you talking about the badass Muay Thai kickboxer?
No, I'm talking about the guy now who's in Atlanta. He was.
We're in Kid Nate land here. The guy I actually felt stupid a while ago was, I believe, Rogerio something de Lima, and I didn't
Oh,
know him at the time. And I
oh,
had researched the hell out of him back in the day, and as soon as I saw him walk out, I was like, damn, it's that cat. He fought for
so
Strike Force.
hold on.
No,
Who's
I got
fighting? Who is it?
Rodrigo Goyana de Lima.
Ah, okay, all right. Sorry, I'm thinking of Rodrigo Lima, who now that okay, Rodrigo Lima used to be a Team Sorrell guy. He went to Atlanta, and it sadly I think was just cut by Scott Coker at Bellator.
What weight class? He's this little guy, right?
Little guy. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I know him, and that's actually different than the de Lima kickboxer slash former Strike Force
correct.
guy I was
All
talking.
right. Now we got this straight. Okay, so who are the guys again? Go through. What are their names?
It's your boy again, Rodrigo Goyana de Lima versus Neil Magny.
I don't care.
I'm fairly interested in Neil Magny because I kind of liked him on Tough as potentially a prospect. Really long reach. He's got a cartoonish reach, almost
Yeah,
Jones-ish in
yeah,
proportion. I
yeah.
don't remember what it is. And then he came out and was fairly disappointing. And then I don't remember who, but he had a fucking stellar fight that I was shocked and got a big win. So now
Mm.
I'm kind of back into it. I'm interested to see how he progresses.
Yeah,
Next,
I remember his name from the show, but I don't remember any of his fights. So.
he could go places, and the way he's improved
How old is
is
he?
is I have no idea. I don't know. Have any information other than the names on the card. I thought I was getting all into care don't care mode. I was like, well, I guess I don't need a bunch of
all
relevant or pertinent information.
all
And
right.
honestly, I don't have that, and I'm
Okay.
kind of enjoying, not knowing shit
Hey
for once.
man,
Every,
hey,
people hate on me for it, but it's refreshing personally. So
freedom's just another word for not having the fight listing.
next up, Vic Gruzic versus Chris Indich. These are former toughers.
No, I don't care.
Actually, I don't know these guys intimately, but I want to say both stand out as guys that I've said you shouldn't just discard these guys in the past. I want to say Indich is a good striker. I could even be confusing the two, but I'm actually and interestingly enough, in a couple hours, I will probably know a lot more about these guys because I'm going to do a vivisection on this card with Zane. But I remember these guys are.
He saves the quality stuff for later, folks.
That's how it works. I mean, but I do recall both of these guys like, hey, these aren't standard run of the mill tough guys. Not that they're going to light the world on fire. Next up, Roldan Sengcha'an. The funniest part is I'm probably butchering each name so bad there's no way in hell you're going to know who I'm talking about.
Yeah,
But
and
he's fighting.
I didn't realize you actually said two names.
That's one. That was
Oh,
one.
okay, that was
Roldan Sengcha-An. So I'm going to go with Roldan Sengcha-An versus Richie Vasilik. And I know I'm fairly familiar with Richie.
no, no, no.
I mean,
I
medium.
have to do that. I don't care. I don't know who you're talking about, first of all, but I don't know, you know.
I think that kind of answers it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how you're pronouncing it, but I'm good at mastering names, you know. I'm doing the Norm Crosby thing. So I now call Sean Shelby Keith.
Oh, just random. I like that.
Yeah, it's just easier for me to remember. Keith. He looks like a Keith.
Well, and again, this is kind of explains why this is the card that's on at 2:30 in the fucking morning. So I
Okay,
suppose they
there
didn't
you go.
line up a bunch of blockbusters for this one. No
Right,
offense again.
right.
Final matchup on this. This is again 43 Tahuna Marquardt. Final preliminary card on Fight Pass. Deshaun Johnson versus Jake Matthews.
I sort of, kind of, almost care about this, but not quite because of Jake Matthews. But no, I don't care.
And I'm not too big on that one either. All right, main card. I'm good here. Robert Whitaker versus Mike Rhodes.
No.
I don't know if you're looking for like clues. Robert Whitaker is the you know what I mean? I can drop little hints for you. He's this guy.
Oh, hold on.
You like
Hold on.
that?
The earphone dropped out. The whole system is collapsing when I laugh, dude. You're okay. I'm back.
You don't have any hands left if you got to hold that in.
No.
So I figured I could do like a Hansel and Gretel thing. I could drop like little breadcrumbs for you.
Yeah, go.
Like, there you go.
Yeah, people accuse me of trying to fake it when I don't know it, but I tell you, I honestly don't. If I don't know it, I'll just say it. I don't know.
Wow. So you've actually been feigning ignorance.
I'm in the wilderness.
Say again?
They've accused me of the opposite, feigning understanding in actual fact while being ignorant. And in real life, I am ignorant. If I'm ignorant, I'm willing to embrace the ignorance. I don't know these guys.
Robert Whitaker was the Aussie, great boxer. He was on the Ultimate Fighter, I think Smashes, and he fought Colton Smith. And Kid Nate he was the guy who left his lead left hand down low, and that was a big part of the broadcast.
Yeah,
and afterwards, he said he was doing that for takedown defense or whatever. Every time I've mentioned 20 times this guy when we're talking about a matchup, this guy leaves his hands down a little bit. Kid Nate jumps on. No, he said afterwards, and I always have to remind him it was a different guy. He's got good hands though. I kind of like the dude. Next up is Hatsu Hioki, fucking Child of Shudo versus Charles Oliveira. I'm all about this one.
How are you spelling his name?
Who?
Hayuki.
How was I spelling it? I was saying it.
I'm sorry. How is it spelled?
Last name. First name Hatsu. H-A-T-S-U.
Just the last name.
Hioki.
No.
Really? Child of Shudo? He got screwed by Clay Guida. He was schooling him from his guard, and Guida would take him down and then desperately fend off and try to fight his way out of submissions without throwing a strike for 5 minutes.
Yeah. I do remember that. Not enough to make me care about this fight, though.
I like Hioki. I've been a fan of his for quite a while. So, and Charles Oliveira. Do you remember Charles Oliveira?
Yeah, that's vaguely.
Skinny Brazilian came in, fought Efrain Escudero with a wrestling background and tossed him around. Sweet boxer. Got DQ'd against Nick Lentz. Orgasm, pretty much. Now started at 55, now down to 145. I'm actually really excited. I might be more excited for that matchup than any other between both of these cards.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because I'm a Hioki mark.
Okay. All right.
Soa Palele versus Jared Rosholt. Heavies.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm kind of looking forward to this one too. I think just because heavyweight in itself is at this point. I mean, Strikeforce helped a lot, but I think any new thing, angle, person, fighter to get fairly interested in. And so
Yep.
Palele, I'm actually kind of surprised. He's come in and done really well, really surprised me. So
Yep.
respect to him.
Yep.
All right, headliner. I think you already touched on this. Marquardt versus
Oh,
Tahuna
oh, wait. Do you have a pick?
for Palele and Rosholt.
Palele and the
I'll probably take Palele on that one.
hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
You dropped out. You there? Okay.
Hi.
All right. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Now. Okay. You dropped out for a second there.
I'm gonna take Palele
Yeah.
in that
No.
matchup. Probably.
I get it. Your image is decoupled from your voice. Yeah. Me too. I'm gonna go for him too. So we
Damn
got
it.
no action there. But okay. Headliner.
Oh wait, so you're gonna take Palele too? You were hoping I was gonna hop on Rosholt?
Can you hear me?
Damn it!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Testing. Are you with me? The
All right.
giraffe
So the
turns
headliner.
blue.
I'm
All
with
right.
you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good. Marquardt to Una. Definitely, I think we're both interested. What are your thoughts on this matchup? Because I'm uncertain on this one.
I'm uncertain, but they've been making some steps. I feel like I've stepped onto the auto showroom floor, and they've been making some steps to kind of seduce me back to the Tahuna camp. Like, look, it's good. It's got good wheels, good tires. Transmission is really strong on this one, and I find myself instinctively leery of their sale of Tahuna. But then Marquardt, man, has been. I mean, if he's, I don't know. I don't want to call the guy a Gichter, but there have been many times where I expected what I didn't get from him, or the other way around. Didn't get what I expected. So, yeah, it's tough. I mean, I would have to say, based on the guys, where they are, their career trajectory, what they're trying to prove, that I'm going to have to make a bold pick. Not maybe not such a bold pick, but for me, it really comes down to who I distrust the least, and I think that's Tahuna.
Oh, really? I was almost going to interrupt you and say that I'm going to pick Tahuna because I thought you were going down that same road.
Uh,
I'll probably take Tahuna in this one. Um, I think he's been more reliable, really.
yep.
Marquardt's done more, but he's been streakier. And to me, and I've been a long time Nate fan ever since Pancrase. I think in today's day, maybe he is sure, but I'm unsure how he looks to generate consistent offense. And I think the big anomaly was the Woodley fight because that was the most impressive offensive display in all of Nate Marquardt's career. It was beauty. It was a thing of beauty. I mean, his
Yep.
boxing, and he seamlessly threw in some nasty elbows in the midst of like really solid 4 or 5 punch boxing combinations.
Mhm.
But Tuhuna's the one where he's not quite as dynamic. I think Nate's best skill, his striking has come along well. He's kind of gone away from leg kicks, which is a little bit odd to me considering he doesn't have a lot of
Mhm.
range weapons. Marquardt is a
Mhm.
phenomenal scrambler and grappler. He's a good
Yep.
wrestler, but he's not the kind of dude that can consistently put Tahuna on his back. I think Tahuna's going to sprawl and brawl on him here.
Yep. Yeah, I like that assessment, but again, for me, it comes down to, yeah, I just I trust Tahuna a little bit more, or distrust him less. So, well, if he fucks this up, if he fucks up my night by losing this fight, I'll never forgive him.
So you're leaning Tahuna as well.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
All right, we're now moving on to the next card, and this is weird timing. See, before at least the UFC doubleheader was a little more palatable because it was kind of start in the morning, end at night. But we have this
This is
2:30 in the morning.
This
Go
is
ahead.
7 p.m. my time. Right?
Yeah. So we go from 2:30 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. to I'm talking Eastern time here, 7:30 for the fight pass, 8 o'clock for the prelims, and 10 o'clock for the main card.
Oh, really? So
Yeah.
those were Eastern times you gave me.
Yeah, so subtract 3 hours for you. So 4:30 in the afternoon for the fight pass, 5 o'clock for the Fox Sports One prelim, main card at 7 p.m.
Okay, I gotten it completely wrong, but all right.
All right, so I don't have high hopes for this one. The lone preliminary card on UFC Fight Pass: Anthony Hamilton versus Alexei Oleinik.
Yeah, yeah, I care about that one.
Why? Because of Alexei?
No, because of Hamilton. Um, but hey, stop it. So, sorry. I got interspecies battles here in the background. Um,
Interspecies battles? Jesus, it's an alien invasion, basically.
yeah, the cat, the dog. Uh,
All that kind of species.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
First matchup on the Fox Sports 1 preliminary card: Ray Borg versus Shane Howell.
Man, why is Ray Borg? Why is that name? Why am
Because
I?
he debuted as a flyweight against Dustin Ortiz, undefeated and is mostly an unknown, and fought like a pimp. I'm hyped to see how he
Good.
does. I'm
All
excited
right.
about him.
Good. So yeah, care. How's that?
Yeah, yeah. Young kid too. We were talking about it yesterday. We didn't know, but early 20s, one of the younger guys, and supremely talented, especially for just having fought his first UFC fight.
I'd,
Andy
li-
Enns. Go
I
ahead.
would I would like to see him somehow consult with Genki Sudo because it doesn't seem right to me that a guy with the last name Borg is not walking into the cage dressed like a robot.
I think every fighter should consult with Genki Sudo personally. I don't
Yeah,
think you can go
yeah,
wrong there.
yeah,
Be
right.
Zero
Right.
samurai bitches. Andy
Yeah.
Enns, Marcelo Guimarães.
Yes, I care.
Why?
Andy ends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of people are. I don't want to say huge fans of him, but he carries a lot of respect. What's your connection or whatever?
Again, if we're on the seesaw of care or don't care, what we're talking about is a complex calculus of what's made us excited or interested or somehow what's drawn our what kind of heat and light has drawn our attention. And the Andy ends buzz. Um, it doesn't even necessarily have to be some of the fights he's had, but the Andy ends buzz has been enough so that I started to think, this is a guy I need to pay attention to, you know. So
I don't know if I'd call that complex calculus, but I'm with you on that one.
yeah, well, it is it is sort of because there are a lot of guys who like all of a sudden again you're using that word all of a sudden, and I'm sure the fighter himself would say all of a sudden. I guess you missed this fight. I guess you missed that. Yeah, I guess we did miss those fights, but what we didn't miss was the buzz. The buzz. I mean, that's why somebody like a John Jones was maybe you got his buzz before I did. But when I saw him debut, what I thought was his debut, and it may have been his UFC debut, I didn't have any buzz off that guy. So that I was blindsided. What they say, the punches that you don't see coming are the ones that hurt the most, right? So
Yeah, and I'm actually going to look that up real quick now that I have different windows in there. And based on what you're saying, that's another thing that my heart kind of goes out to guys like Andy Enns is I mean, slave away, for him up on the Alaskan MMA scene. And I mean, I'm sure he's had all kinds of turmoils and battles and challenges he's overcome, only to reach his dream to get to the UFC and have the casual fan say, "Who the fuck is this guy?" Although, yeah, I realized that he was a tougher as well. All right, so yeah, the guy I was talking about for John Jones is Andre Guzmao, and that was his debut
I
at UFC
I
87.
I did see that. No, I can't. I have to say I didn't see that. I saw that, and I went back and watched that after I saw him beat Bonner. But the first time I saw him against Bonner, I was the first time I had seen him. You know.
And really because of the name recognition, so he did some good shit against Guzmao, and it was, I mean, innovative. I still think right now he's the best innovator in the game. He might be the best we've had yet. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that opens up a can of worms, but for him to do it against
Well,
Guzmao was,
him and I mean, I put two guys in that category, him and Sakuraba. I saw Sakuraba do stuff, man. That as a lifelong martial artist, I was like wondering. It's like guys who play guitar watching fucking great guitar players. I was like, how the, where'd that come? I don't know. That's
it's so hard to compare those two. I mean, because totally different eras and genres. I mean, Sakuraba pretty much stamped catch wrestling kind of on the mat, I think, and did it in the most gangster way because he did it against a bunch of the Gracies.
You're right.
Kind of enough said. But in a lot of Jones, yeah, okay, either way, we don't need to go down that road.
Mhm.
Um, where the hell are we on this card? Oh, yeah, okay, so Andians and Gumaras. You like Andians to win that fight?
I do.
And I think he's got a good chance, too, although Gumaras is another guy that people were kind of buzzing about, but it's taken him a while to get a foothold here.
Yeah.
Next up, Johnny Bedford versus Cody Gibson.
Cody. No, nope, don't care.
Mildly interested to see Bedford's next step here, but not a barn burner. Next up, Carlos Diego Ferreira versus Colton Smith,
Why do I care about Colton Smith?
because he's a one-dimensional wrestler that won the Ultimate Fighter. He's the guy that fought Robert Whitaker that I was saying before. He's one of the few guys that really almost had, when we're talking in the context of a standard UFC event with standard UFC fighters, almost strictly a one-dimensional wrestler.
Yeah.
Very little striking or anything else.
You know what? We should do a point by point comparison between Saturday Night Live and The Ultimate Fighter. Because people think of Saturday Night Live as this really fantastic incubator, but the number of people who've stepped out of Saturday Night Live into serviceable careers do you remember Brad Hall? I bet you don't.
No, not the name. I might remember his face.
Yeah. Or the woman I mentioned earlier, Ellen Cleghorn. You don't. You remember Julia Louis-Dreyfus? Maybe if you were a Seinfeld fan. But the people who came off that show and did some amazing shit, very, very few compared to the ones who went through those doors. And I think Ultimate Fighter very quickly. I still think of the puck of MMA, and using the word puck refers to MTV's Real World for you use under 30.
It's not Rocket Guy.
Junie Browning, who was like, you could see the formula work. He was his seasons. Chris Lieben, slightly troubled, not super talented. No, I love Chris Lieben. I would call him more than he's quite talented, I believe, for a period of time. But the numbers of guys, like, you might think you've arrived on that show, but you've not arrived. you will be fucking a historical footnote so fast. You really gotta, I don't know. I think I'd like these guys to take more seriously. It's like, man, I'm on TV for 13 weeks. So? Yeah.
So my question is, what would be your point of reference for Tough One as it compares to Saturday Night Live? Because my earliest recollection are also my favorite comedians of my youth and to come off Saturday Night Live, and that was like the Chevy Chase. Steve Martin really grew on me after a while. I didn't really like him at first, but Bill Murray, Chevy Chase. I came in right after the Belushi era.
Which Belushi?
Are you still there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can now, yeah.
Okay, which Belushi?
Jimmy.
Oh, not John? You remember John?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, my fault. John, I came in right after John was huge and died after that.
Okay, yeah. So we're around the same place because that was the first season I remember, the first show I remember. So, I came in. So I don't know if this is the point you were going for. Maybe this is the point that you sort of makes sense that between the first season of Saturday Night Live and season 17, maybe there's going to be some sort of attrition. But then you get surprises. You get like Will Ferrell. Who's that cat that everybody loves that it really bores me?
Jimmy Fallon, probably.
Jimmy Fallon. Yeah. So,
yep.
I don't get it, man. I don't get it. Jimmy Fallon's like the kind of guy. If I was at a bar at the beginning of the evening, he'd be perfectly okay. But by the end of the evening, after I'd had a few drinks, I'd be like angling for that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, come over here, man. Come over here. I want to slap you around a bit.
Kind of like when you're making a song, you have the choice to use repetition and make it catchy so people can sing along with it quickly, but also get real fucking sick of it quickly.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah,
and actually, some of the females, why can't I think of Liz Lemon's name? Liz Lemon, 30 Rock. I cannot think of her name.
Oh my God, you just did to me too. Now you passed it off.
Rachel Dratch is actually
Tina Fey.
Tina Fey.
Yeah.
Always liked her, even before she hit it big.
Yep. Yep.
So you'll always have anomalies like that. But so to wrap up this bizarre metaphor, early Saturday Night Live, we're looking at like Chevy Chase, Bill Murray, Steve Martin, and the success of the inaugural Ultimate Fighter show, and people sometimes expect that same level of perseverance throughout their careers.
Well,
But
yeah. Also, didn't Dana just come out and say that he thought the whole first season should all be in the Hall of Fame or some shit like that? You know,
yeah, yeah, I don't know, but I mean the show is
I
precedented.
don't, I
There's
don't,
no
I,
question
I,
about
I don't think he's talking about season 14. I don't think he's talking about those guys.
that. I can
Because
guarantee.
who among us could forget? Well, there's that guy from season 14.
Well, and with the Ultimate Fighter 1, they really had the advantage of doing it for the first time and being
Yeah,
able
yeah.
to capitalize on the whole talent pool. And they selected some excellent fighters. And even some of the shows afterwards were pretty good with Rashad and Melvin Gillard. But I think overall it kind of kept declining a little bit at a time.
Well, okay, all right. Well, okay, how about this? How about if you go at this stratomatic baseball style and you start manipulating the separate seasons? If instead of the first season you have who you had, you take the guys from season 11 and put them in season 1, do they make the big? Do they make the same splash?
I
I
don't
mean,
think so.
yeah, okay, yeah.
You? Do you?
No, I actually don't. But I think maybe you could make a case for it. But yeah, you're right. I don't really think so.
I see what you're saying though, but season 1 was unique because they had excellent fighters, they had a wide range of personality, and that was the debut of what became, the reality show. I think 4 or 5 seasons in, people were saying, "I'm not interested in watching guys jack off in a plate of fruit and
I
piss on
said
some
that.
guy's pillow." Oh,
Yeah,
you said
that was
that?
me. That was pretty much me. I did like eight shows in a row where I couldn't get off the salad semen poop in the toilet, top part of the toilet theme. I couldn't get away
Well,
with that.
because the food thing, man, like that's not like there's certain lines like that's one you do not want to step over with the food. Like it's funny, okay, pee
And you
on
know what,
someone's
man?
pillow, but
You know what? I don't even want your testicles in my salad, much less your load.
I can stand behind that statement. I think that I
I think
think
I
that's
will
a I think that's a reasonable desire right there.
pretty much foodstuffs rubbed on your testicles are things I do not want to eat. So yeah.
All right, we have left, and we're getting close on time here. Here's the main card: Fox Sports 1. We're talking UFN 44 Swanson Stevens. Joe Ellenberger, after 6 potential opponents, finally comes in against Blackhouse James Muntasri.
Yeah, I care,
Me
but I
too.
care for a strange reason. Yeah, why do you care?
Well, because I'm fairly familiar with Joe Ellenberger, and after I don't even remember what fucking show I did yesterday. I think Zane Simon was involved, but he told me a little bit about Muntasri with a Taekwondo background, training out of Black House
Yep,
with the
yep.
Nogueira brothers, and I was already fairly interested to see how Joey Ellenberger would do, and now that made it even more appealing.
Yeah, so my interest is very much for the same reason. The Black House connection, as well as the fact that, I've developed a theory on the past shows about brother fight teams. So I think that this is, yeah, you're not just fighting the guy, you're actually fighting the guy and his brother. you know, so
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry, our shit's breaking up real bad. I don't know if that's just me or just you, but someone else brought that up too about the brother angle, and it is kind of interesting. I mean, you have the Shamrocks. Can you think who are the notable UFC brothers? Shamrocks, Diaz's, now the Ellenbergers,
Shamrock's Diaz's Millers,
Millers.
Cole and Dan, and there's like one more that I'm
Wait,
missing.
it'd
Oh,
be
Pettis.
Cole and Micah. Actually, there's 4 Millers: Cole and Micah Miller, and then Jim and Dan Miller.
Yeah, correct.
But
But
either
you know
way, so
what? Yeah, you're dropping out too. But you're right. It seems a more dysfunctional. Like Nick and Nate seem pretty functional. You know, brother-wise. Can you hear me?
yeah, I was thinking of that. Functional from what standpoint? Because I know some would disagree with that.
They don't seem to hate each other.
Oh, I mean, no, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you can tell they're tight. That's one thing that kind of makes them, I think people kind of dig that about them because, they'll run around the house and beat the piss out of each other with nunchucks. They obviously, They got that brotherly bond. Clint
Uh,
Hester versus Antonio Braga Neto.
Say it again.
Clint Hester versus Antonio Braga Neto.
No, I don't care.
I'm fairly interested in this one. I like Clint Hester, and Neto is a tough. I care about that one. Hakron Diaz
Net,
versus Ricardo Lamas.
Neto. That's not. Is you spelling it Neto?
Yeah, but there's an old school Neto from Brazil. They're both Brazil.
My understanding is that Neto means third.
What does it mean?
Third.
Your
So
shit's breaking up. Third, like 1, 2, 3, third.
yeah, like John Johnson the third. you
Really?
know,
I have
yeah.
no idea.
So he's done some kind of weird thing with his name, maybe. I could be wrong. Okay, the next one. What was it?
Hakron Diaz versus Ricardo Lamas. Lamas, of course, just
Yes.
challenged.
Yep.
Me
I
too.
care.
I'm into this one.
Yep.
Andrew Craig versus Cesar Ferreira.
No, I don't care. I mean, Craig
Yeah.
rings some sort of bells, but in general, I'm not caring.
Craig's been streaky, shown good and bad signs, and Ferreira, I believe, won Tough Brazil 1 or 2, and he just lost to CB Dalloway. Actually, I'm kind of interested in that one.
Okay.
All
Well,
right, now,
pretty much, no matter what we say, if we're talking about it, then it probably should be shunted back into the care category. But without you on that, I had nothing.
all right, we're down to the final two, co-main and main. The co-main is Kelvin Gastelum versus Nicholas Masoki.
Yeah, of course I care.
Yeah, me too. And Masoki again has shown some really good shades, or at least signs of promise. So I'm kind of interested. But Kelvin,
Are you gonna pick? You gonna pick Misoki?
no man, because Kelvin is. We were talking about what an anomaly he is. Even though he won the Ultimate Fighter, even afterwards, people continued to buzz exclusively about Uriah Hall, even though
Yeah, I
Kelvin
know.
was the winner, and he
I
continues
know.
to impress. So
Yeah.
I got Kelvin's back after that one. All right,
Yeah.
last one. We already kind of talked about this, Cub and Jeremy Stevens. This is going to be a scrap.
But I think we both came down the side of Stevens, right?
I'm gonna take. This is one where I have nothing against Jeremy Stevens. I would. I don't know who I would pick against if Cub fought him. Maybe the Korean Zombie, but I would kind of default. I'm kind of a Cub mark too. So, but Stevens is a
All right.
really tough matchup for him.
Well, hold on. So we got some action. So you're gonna pick Cub on this one.
Yeah, if it'll make this fucking show more exciting, I definitely. Stevens is a deceivingly
Well,
difficult matchup.
I could get some salad and rub it on my testicles. I mean, we could do anything, man. We follow the Ultimate Fighter lead to drive up ratings. I could go piss in somebody's juice right now. Anything.
Well, bring the webcam with you. Our viewership just doubled based on
Oh,
that
really?
last statement.
We went from 1 to 2 viewers. Man.
All right, so we'll close with this question on that matchup. Size isn't always everything, but I always take it into account. And Stevens has, I think we figured out yesterday, at least 1 inch of reach, but he's going to have a couple inches of height on Cub. Normally, I wouldn't make a big deal about that, but I do think in this matchup that it's going to play a little bit of a role. I guess bounce that off you. What are your thoughts on that? Stevens is a big boy. He's learned to wrestle. He's always been a decent defensive wrestler. Cub is fantastically dynamic in all areas, but I think Stevens might be able to get away with coming straight forward. He's got a great fucking chin. I want to say Stevens has not been knocked out, not lost to TKO again. I'm going off the top of my head here. Those are some of the reasons. Size, Stevens' simple but highly effective power game. I think that will present a tough matchup for Cub.
Yeah. You know what? You raised some interesting points, and it's something that I think people should. That people, I'm thinking specifically of fight coaches and fighters, that you need to think about. And I'm sure I'd be surprised if somebody like a Greg Jackson hadn't done this. But you really need to have some meta thoughts about fighting, other than just the fighting aspect of fighting. I mean, there are all kinds of things that happen in the cage about rhythmic things, kind of psychological things, approach things. This is why there was that great. Alex and Fedor, his brother, they did a sambo match, and they came out and they shook hands, and Alex decided to hold on to his brother's hand a little bit too long to get the advantage, which in this instance just served to make his Fedor really angry, and of course he ended up beating Alex. But I remember competing or you see, there's a rhythm to a fight. There's an exchange. Both fighters kind of regroup rhythmically. They regroup, and then they have an exchange, and then they regroup. If you screw, there's some fighters. Anderson Silva was great with screwing with that rhythm, where you would, exchange, regroup, and then you boom. So it's just like music, So it's like boom, boom, boom. Everybody pauses, boom. Instead of that, you go boom, 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 boom. You have to screw. So I'd really like to see some guy, and I haven't seen it yet in all of UFC, some guy who plays those extra factors. I mean, who's the cat? The guy who comes in the suit who hated John Jones for a long time. The black cat commentator who Chael.
Cormier?
No, Chael licked his foot, licked his shoe.
Holy shit! I have no idea.
I can't remember this guy's name. Jesus Christ! He fought John Jones. They used to be training partners. He used to be a Greg Jackson guy. Rashad Evans.
Oh, Rashad. Yeah.
Rashad Evans, and he sort of was one of the first people, like when he came in doing his whole frog thing. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm just waiting to ask you to expound upon the he licked Chael Sonnen's foot part.
No, Chael licked his foot. Remember, they had a bet, and Chael said, "I will lick your shoes on national TV if you're right and I'm wrong." And then Rashad ended up being right. He put his foot up on the desk, and Chael went and licked his shoe.
That's one of those gems. I'm sitting here saying I have no idea how I could have no knowledge.
This?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Well, I thought he cheesed his way out of it by licking the top part of his shoe. If you've ever made somebody lick your shoe, as some of us might have had occasion to do, it doesn't count if they lick the top of your shoe. They have to lick the bottom of your shoe, But whatever. That he licked the shoe at all kind of blew me away. But Rashad would come in with his frog stance. That was a great example of kind of an arrhythmic beat introduced into a fight, because the guy didn't come rushing across the cage. He didn't know what to do at that point, I saw a guy fight a dwarf in an MMA match, didn't know how to fucking fight him, man. I saw a guy in a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu match roll up to the mat in a wheelchair, and he killed everybody because nobody knew what to do with the fact that he didn't have any legs, Yeah. So, I mean, there are a lot of extra factors that I'd like to see. I mean, reach, these are still, in my mind, relatively crude factors. Reach and size. I mean, ultimately, reach and size and speed. I mean, what I'm seeing with Jeremy Stephens is I'm seeing him being able to meet Cub in each of the places where Cub is good, but do so with a little more brio. So, toughness, brio, call it whatever you want. That's what I'm seeing. That's his path to victory. But
I think what you're saying depends, because there's some fighters. I mean, it's an obvious and easy example, but Stefan Struve. So he's long, but he does not know how to use it at all.
Correct.
And Stephens is a cat. Right now, if someone had to ask me what, everyone used to say the jab were the most underutilized, and I've been saying I think actually leg kicks. And I'm not saying people don't throw it. I mean like old Marco Ruas style, where I can't remember. Someone was. Did you watch the Woodley-Roy McDonald fight?
Yep.
So Woodley was starting to get down on the cards. Rory's keeping him out at range where Woodley doesn't want to be. And Woodley uncorks 3 nasty low kicks, the last of which Rory checks none. The last one actually lifts his leg up off the ground.
Yeah, I remember this. Yeah.
And then he totally went away from him and never threw another one. Like back in the day, once that was established, it became, I'm going to throw some other shit, but that at some point in time is coming back in. Perfect setup for the high kick. Going back to Stephens, just a straight 1-2. There's so many times when one fighter is getting crowded, the other guy has no fear. He's walking right into his wheelhouse. And I think I keep trying to think of these examples that I can't remember. But there's a time when if you sit down, I mean, just blast a straight 1-2 through. If you throw it right, your chin's protected. It's not a really high risk. I call that the get the fuck off me combination. It makes and Jeremy Stephens throws heaters and they're straight. He maximizes his power and speed.
Right.
I know you got to go, but I wanted to talk more about your tempo thing. I wrote a whole article on the Diaz brothers because their use of tempo was so unusual. You have a
Yep,
guy like Anderson Silva who creates like a symphony and he lullabies you
yep,
into it.
yep.
The
Or
Diaz
you had
brothers,
or
go ahead.
somebody like Keith Jardine, who was so in general arrhythmic himself that NPR just did a great thing on people who actually have no rhythm. They found a few. There's like one guy who has no freaking rhythm. He's always, American music is mostly on the 2/4. He's on the 1/3. They tested him, and now he's going back for this round to test. He just can't hear it. So Keith Jardine was like that. It was so they used to talk about his quirky style. It wasn't quirky; it was arrhythmic. But anyway,
Yeah, and I know Eric Paulson makes a point to teach like broken rhythms. That's part of
right,
old traditional martial arts. But to close, the Diaz brothers are so unique because you know what they're going to come forward and they keep marching to that same tempo. And what's phenomenal is at their peak, eventually they just drowned people in it. I mean, bat, 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 and people would get a. And they also, it wasn't just tempo, the velocity of their strikes, pitter, patter,
right,
boom, and it
right.
would be an uppercut, a hook. So
But
that's
they're
something we
also
should
they're
talk about more.
but they're also fucking with the rhythm too. With the baiting thing they do, it resets the rhythm, but it resets the rhythm to a place that they've reset it to, not where their opponent has reset it to.
Their
So
own personal rhythm, which makes
correct.
their rhythm stronger
Right,
and harder to
right,
deal with.
right. Exactly right. So
Too
so
bad
I,
this didn't come up earlier. We could have spent an hour talking about that.
well, that'll be next time. So
All right.
we should go so I don't get fired and you can smoke that cigarette.
We should, based on that note. All right, Eugene, I'm still going to interview you sometime in the future, so we'll keep on that. Thanks for coming today, man. Always a pleasure to have you. Any closing words, final comments?
No, don't die over the week. We'll see you guys next week on Knuckle Up.
Words to live by, folks. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. Enjoy the doubleheader this Saturday.
And click like. Kid Nate always says, I should have said it at the top. Click like. Yeah, there you
And
go.
he always has to let us know.
Yeah, that's
It's
right.
this
Yeah.
one. This
Yeah,
one, guys.
not this one. Not not that one. We can save that for Knuckle Up. Anyway, all right, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right, we out.
Bye bye. Bye.